Hi, seeing quorum, the chair opens up the meeting of the Mashpee Planning Board, Wednesday, July 20th, 7 PM. We're meeting here at the Awkway Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. We're being broadcast live on a local channel 18, and we're streamed live, Town of Mashpee website, https://www.mashpeema.gov/channel-18. We are being videographed tonight and recorded. I'd like to invite everybody to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the minutes of July 6, 2022. If I remember correctly, they were like 18 pages. Is that right? They were pretty long. I didn't see anything that I wanted changed. Does anybody else have any comments? Is it?
The minutes are not in the packet.
Not to entertain a motion to accept as presented.
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
2 abstentions from John and Mike. Okay. So we have a few minutes before our public hearing at 7:10. Would you like to vote to set a public hearing date for amendments to the subdivision rules and regs? What date do you want to?
Second meeting in, did I provide the notice?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's the second meeting in August, which I believe is the 17th.
So that's
August 17th at 7:10. Would somebody like to make a motion to set our public hearing for the amendments to the subdivision rules and regs for August 17th at 7:10?
So moved.
Mike?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Vote to set public hearing date for special permit application made by Longfellow Design Build to construct a 13,229 square feet retail grocery at 647 Falmouth Road, Assessors Map 81, Block 132. So there's also a public hearing notice in our packet for August 17th at 7:20. Would somebody make a motion to set the public hearing date for August 17th, 7:20? Okay, any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
We still don't know what grocery store it's gonna be though, right?
We're going to ask them when they come.
Everybody keeps on asking me.
Mary, does it matter that the times are reversed on the
That's just a
public
draft, it
hearing?
has not been
Okay.
advertised.
I have the subdivision at 7:10 and the Longfellow Design Build at 7:20. Is that good for you?
Yeah, I'll make sure the notices are consistent with your motions.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, we have a meeting. We've been invited to join the EDIC for their meeting on July 26th. Do we have a time? Is it 6:30, Evan?
Carol has, I think it's 6.
6 o'clock. So we're gonna post a meeting notice just in case we show up in quorum.
Yeah.
And it's about our thoughts about redeveloping some properties and, possibly amending the zoning bylaw to offer incentives for
Okay.
that to happen. Is there anything else on that meeting? I think that's it, right?
That's it.
Redevelopment opportunities.
I have produced a list of properties with maps that I'd like to provide to you at that meeting for your, just to gather your thoughts.
Okay, so we're pretty sure it's a 6 o'clock start on July 26th. Of course, it's a public meeting, so anybody is welcome to attend. Okay. Next item on does anybody have any comments about this stuff? Anybody from the public? Yes, Karen.
The Longfellow project, which we think is Trader Joe's, that went to the Cape Cod Commission for a DRI. Was that the one?
It is the one, Karen, but due to procedural issues, they needed to withdraw their application from the commission and thus again withdraw their application from the planning board. So we're starting anew once more.
So they're going to have to go to the Cape Cod Commission
Correct.
again?
On 8/17, when you open the public hearing, you have to make a mandatory referral and begin the process again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next item, discussion of issues at Awkway Highlands subdivision and conditions of the special permit relative to traffic. Does the town planner have some information for us?
Sure. My office received more than one comment, question, concern relative to the traffic mitigation conditions that are contained in the Awkway Highlands special permit. Notably, there are two conditions pertaining to traffic mitigation that I wanted to remind you of and get some guidance on what you'd like me to do with the developer regarding those requirements. One is the donation of $3,000 into an account to be held with the treasurer for the purchase by the town of a flashing radar signal.
Yeah.
That, to my knowledge, that check has never been collected. There was a natural resources mitigation requirement for shellfish seed, of which the developer did contribute. I don't recall collecting a check for the radar sign, so we can follow up directly with him tomorrow. I'm actually meeting with him on site with Ed Pesci tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and we're going to discuss these issues, among other things. So I'll make that expectation clear, especially while he still has homes to construct in the subdivision. And then, once we get clarity on kind of next steps regarding that flashing sign and when and if we can facilitate the procurement of the sign and the installation with the DPW, then I will notify the neighborhood responding to their concerns with some clarity around when they could expect to see that obligation met.
Oh, so there's costs, this was to cover the cost of a four-way stop sign.
Yes, additionally,
Okay.
there was a condition
Sorry.
regarding the intersection of DeGrasse Road, Tracy Lane, and Gia Lane, I believe.
Okay,
For a four-way stop sign, the installation of a four-way stop sign there by the developer. But the neighborhood, that's upon successful petition to the select board to authorize the installation of such signs. So what I'm suggesting is that I clarify that requirement to the neighborhood, that it's upon them to petition the selectmen for the stop signs, and upon their approval, it'll be up to Mr. Moran and the developer to purchase and install the stop signs. So those are the traffic mitigation issues that were raised in my office. Additionally, there remain some stormwater and drainage concerns up to the street. 7 of the 8 catch basins we found to be plugged with sediment, so we're meeting with Ed tomorrow to manage those issues. And we anticipate that he has been, he did reloam the slopes of those detention basins. He's planning on hydroseeding in the fall. But we do want to address the issues with the catch basins tomorrow, which we'll do with Ed, and I anticipate Ed will join us at our next meeting to report to you.
One of them has a tree growing in it.
Oh, nice.
No, the one right up in the corner.
Yeah.
It's about this big. I check them out all the time.
I got a call a few weeks ago from a neighbor who had some flooding in his driveway. It remains to be seen whether or not the failed catch basins are the primary culprit with regard to the water he's receiving in his street, but we're going to assess that tomorrow with Ed and see if we can't resolve that problem tomorrow. And then I'll invite Ed to join us at our next meeting to report on if and what is accomplished so that that project can remain on track and in compliance with the approval.
so let's keep it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? Anybody from the public have any comments? Let's just keep it on the agenda and, get a nice little report, and I think that, if Ed doesn't come to our next meeting, maybe he can give us a quick written report.
Sure.
Okay. We have 1 minute, so I'm going to wait. Okay. Seeing the appointed time has arrived, the chair opens up the public hearing. It's 7:10. It's continued from June 15th, 2022. The applicant is Marcello Malegny, Forest Dale Road LLC. The location is 532 Main Street, Assessors Map 26, Block 6. The applicant requests consideration for approval of a 9-lot definitive subdivision plan of land consisting of approximately 18.05 acres located on Main Street, Route 130 in Mashpee, between Nicoletta's Way and Echo Road. We received a letter. I don't know if Chris, you want to come up? We've received a letter from Chris Corain, who represents the applicant. And why don't you just summarize, since you're here, your request?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Christopher Corain representing the applicant. I did forward a letter to the planning office requesting a continuance of this matter to the August 17th hearing. The reason for that is, as I represented in some of the other correspondence to the board, we're working with the trustees of Nicoletta's Way to use Nicoletta's Way. We have the parameters of an agreement with them to use Nicoletta's Way, which would obviate the need to go through the subdivision process, have our own road using 130 and addressing the traffic concerns that this board had raised at our first meeting. We're still waiting on some comments from the trustees of Nicoletta's Way on the details of that agreement, but as I say, the meat, the parameters is there, but I don't want to be in a position of withdrawing the application before I know that we're all signed up. And then from there, what I expect once that agreement is made, that we'd be withdrawing the existing application. I've talked with Evan about the process. We'd be filing an approval not required plan for the, I think, 7 lots on Nicoletta's Way. Any additional lots
Okay.
that would be requested would have to go through the modification of the subdivision. So that is where I am. The only other thing I would say is that, or update the board on, is that there was as the board knows, there was a condition or an old order from the Cape Cod Commission. I've spoken with Evan, I've spoken with Drew at Conservation, we've spoken with the Cape Cod Commission. We are going to comply with that order. It probably will be shown on when we get to the A&R plan, showing that lot on that A&R plan for approval so that we can deed it to the Conservation Commission in accordance with that order. So with that, again, I ask for the continuance to the 17th. If the board has any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer those.
It's good you can work the things.
Yeah, the board was, great to allow us to give that process. We had a great meeting a few months ago. I know Bob's here on behalf of the trustees. We had a great meeting. It's just trying to get it to the finish line. I don't think there are any obstacles that are going to prevent that, but we just got to get there. So I appreciate the board's consideration.
Good.
All right, I'll take a motion to continue this public hearing to August 17th at 7:30. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, I think we can go to old business local comprehensive plan.
It does not look like we have Ashley and Blake on today. I want to make sure I'm not missing them. I was expecting that, but I had some Wi-Fi issues earlier, and I'm wondering if that has impacted their ability to access the Zoom. But at any rate, I'm prepared to
That's fine.
update you on what I know, and what I've been working on.
Why don't we do planning board comments on existing conditions? There are 3 chapters listed here: natural resources, land use and growth management, open space and recreation. I usually have a ton of comments. I don't have any at this time.
I believe these are the last remaining chapters for us to review, so we'll continue to work on them. If there are no comments or questions fielded today, I'd leave it to the board to either submit them in writing or continue to go through them.
John, looks like he's got something.
I just had on the table 5.1, the land use over time, is there any way to get more current information than 2005?
Yeah.
And I understand that
What
it's
page
not
is it on, John?
comparable. It's on page 2. Top of the page, it says land use over time,
Uh-oh.
and it's a time series. Now, I understand from the footnote that the data is not comparable. There's got to be some.
The land use comparisons utilize the state classification codes to draw comparisons over extended periods of time between to show how land use patterns have changed. The state very recently, within the past couple of years, has reclassified their entire state classification process. So none of the class codes today match up with what existed previously.
Yeah.
Weston and Sampson has requested from the assessor all of the historical records to try and make a more thoughtful comparison between more recent years and what we have available, but that is the issue, and we're working on addressing it.
Okay.
What's water? I don't understand.
Direct me to the page you're on, Dennis.
The same page, too.
In that grid.
I was with John, I was wondering first at 205, but I don't know what water is, that lakes and pond, and how can we have more in 205?
You got deeper.
Page 2 of natural resources.
So it's table 5.1, land use over time. Is that for water protection?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking, I don't understand.
This is why we do this. If there's something that requires more clarity, we're going to note it and make sure that it is clear, and I'm just struggling to find the table here.
It's on page 2,
Yeah, it's
same
in the
table.
same, it's in the same table,
Same page, John.
third from the bottom,
In natural resources.
Land.
in land use.
Land- that's why.
Land use
That's
and
why.
over time. And John, though, it's weird, we had more commercial space in 99 than 205. How could that be?
Don't know. I'd love to know what it is today.
You see what we're looking at, Evan?
I'm not finding it for some reason. I'm wondering if I just have a spark.
So go to land use, right? It's your first packet, it's your first
It was a
chapter in your packet.
Showing the acreage.
second page.
Can I just look at yours, Karen?
You get to share when you sit.
That's the amount of land area that covers that's surface water in Mashpee. So anything within the town bounds that is covered with water is what that is.
So, what I'm taking out of that,
Oh,
if the water table rose, or
No, this, like the amount of land area covered by water, whether there was, I don't know, a dam went in and certain, you know?
all right,
hi Blake, can you hear us?
But that's what that means. If there's clarity needed, we can provide some clarity in that.
I just curious to see those numbers. That's all I
Okay.
had.
That was my only,
Wetlands
more
is
current
The same
data.
thing, John, I
Wetland is
put a
increased
check
as well,
mark
water is increased.
question with these.
22 years old.
Yeah,
You've got a lot of rain, too.
and then I didn't understand the water.
So I'm gonna leave these on the agenda,
Yeah,
okay? And wow, those are our last 3 chapters for existing uses, so good job, everybody. So Blake is on, but I'm not sure if he can hear us.
It does appear that we've got a lot of maps to put together.
And then our next item is assessment of the 1998 chapters on energy and municipal buildings and facilities.
Want me to jump into those?
Yes, please. So these you prepared, okay, good.
Alex helped me with these as well.
Oh, good.
We met with primarily the DPW director and sent some comments and questions to other stakeholders and department heads to round out some of this information. But I'll start with energy. And just a reminder, the goals of the energy element of the 1998 plan were to minimize per capita and overall energy use related to transportation, space, heating, lighting, land use, and other local factors, and to optimize benefits made possible by the deregulation of electric and gas utilities. Goals and actions were to create a Mashpee Energy Committee. There was at one time a Mashpee Energy Committee, and it was composed of staff people, like the Plan Review Committee, for example, and it consisted of the town manager, the DPW director, presumably the town planner, and after some amount of years of being in operation, it was decided, I think, by the former town manager that the committee was not needed from
Oh,
her
yeah.
perspective.
Mary, are we allowed to ask questions during this thing?
Absolutely.
Why was that decided?
Why was what decided, Mike?
I'd like-
That we don't need a committee on.
I would need to get
Something that's
clarity on
important.
that. Catherine did have
We're on
some
energy
opinions,
element
but
assessment.
I could clarify. I feel like they felt like there was like a duplication of efforts being that was occurring, but
I mean, the town was designated a green community, and all of a sudden, we don't have a committee.
Well,
That makes no sense.
I think that's a lot of the actions in this.
I mean,
It
really.
doesn't.
I think a lot of these actions that were defined prior to the town becoming a green community. And to maintain our status in the Green Communities Program, there are a bunch of reporting requirements which essentially fulfill many of the actions contained in this plan. So the DPW director tracks our green communities minimums and mandates and submits the annual and quarterly reports to the state. And so perhaps that's the reason why the Energy Committee
Sure,
disbanded.
it does, yeah.
But we can get clarity on that question.
And we might want to put that on the short list
We
of
put those
action
windmills
items.
down at the park.
You know, we might want to have a citizens energy.
Did you?
Yeah, that was Tom.
I'd look over
He was
it.
the assistant town planner.
Tom Mayo.
Tom Mayo, yeah.
I did ask Catherine if the Planning and Construction Committee, after disbanding the Energy Committee, fulfilled any sort of role. And she said that they do not, and it's really falling under her purview to monitor energy usage in all municipal buildings and facilities. An action was to work with the county to establish a Mashpee and/or county energy fund. And Catherine, to her knowledge, there is no such energy fund that exists. There was a goal of developing a municipal energy assessment program. There was never an official program developed per se. However, the town is designated, as I had mentioned, as a green community by the state and produces annual reports that meet an energy assessment, fill that gap. Again, I asked about the Planning and Construction Committee and their role in this, and they do not assess and track the municipal energy consumption, but it is tracked by the DPW. Town municipal buildings, facilities are primarily operating using natural gas, and the schools and landfill have net metering of solar applications. Landfill is obviously a ground-mounted installation, and these schools are roof-mounted installations. I believe the schools are also doing the carport canopies. There was a question about the preparing for deregulation and opportunities for lower rates. I'm awaiting replies from CVEC, the Cape and Vineyard Electric Company, and Cape Light Compact on these questions, because quite frankly, I didn't understand what they meant by deregulation of the industry. I don't know if any of you can enlighten me in that regard, but Catherine did not know either.
I think that's just, the utilities used to be government-run.
I see.
Yeah.
Catherine did note that the town's net supply for natural gas is obtained through a consortium purchased alongside other Upper Cape towns to establish lower energy rates for the town, and electricity costs and supply is managed solely by the Cape Light Compact. Develop a townwide energy assessment has not been done to the knowledge of the DPW director, and there was a goal of estimating the potential economic impact of conserving energy in Mashpee. And again, there is internal reporting of the cost benefits of transitioning to electric fleets to electric vehicles. That's a requirement of our EVIP Fleets program that got us our 4 electric cars. So we're only a few years into that program, so we could quantify and calculate how much cost savings we have from the use of gasoline. But we, again, need to analyze that data a little bit further to understand those benefits. That program does have case studies available from other municipalities to show what their cost benefits are from transitioning to sustainable fuels. And again, the grant application process and the Green Communities reporting estimates potential cost savings to the town that Catherine tracks, and she has that data available. The town, however, does not catalog the number of homes with solar domestic hot water systems, sun spaces, or passive solar houses. But we have adopted the stretch building code, so anything that's in Mashpee is generally weathertight and energy efficient to a standard that's above and beyond the state building code. There was a goal of educating the DPW and other large fleets in the town about the benefits of converting their fleets to compressed natural gas or other alternative fuels. I've never heard of compressed natural gas. I don't know if that ever became a commercially viable fuel source, but we are obviously continuing to assess and understand the economic benefits of transitioning our fleet currently to electric. There was a goal of cataloging potential wind farm sites in Mashpee. Our zoning bylaw does regulate for does have a wind farm overlay district, and standards for the siting and construction of such facilities are defined in the zoning bylaw. They're allowed in all zoning districts with a unique ratio for a fall zone requirements to lot lines. However, it's my understanding that there are currently no wind farms in the town of
I
Mashpee.
ask you a question on
Yes.
that? Does ratio fall zone requirement to lot lines mean if this thing should fall,
It
it would clear, it wouldn't hit somebody?
Exactly. It's a little bit, I'm just trying to look in my memory. The ratio is dependent on the total height of the tower, and it requires for a certain tower to be like 120% of the total height of the tower is the height it has to be set back from the lot line.
Can
So,
you identify any place, I mean, just to give me an idea,
Okay.
where would a wind farm go in Mashpee? I
Evan,
mean,
we did a study, and I think the only place really was down to South Cape Beach.
okay,
Because for
With the
them to
wind.
work, it has to be a 14-mile-per-hour wind
gotcha.
to
at
generate.
the minimum.
Yeah, and then up on the base, they had enough wind that would be worthwhile to put them.
All right, we should take a look into whatever studies exist.
Yeah.
But just to my knowledge,
The winds
there-
have got to be increasing over the last couple of years too,
Yeah.
dramatically.
and we've all seen, Falmouth's efforts with the
Yeah.
wind energy.
They put them up, let's get them
And it's
down.
got to be
now.
it's got to be similar to the cell tower in terms of fall ratio.
The cell tower is a little bit less complicated.
Well, I
The
know.
wind
Yeah.
towers
want
are a
to
little bit
refer-
more complicated in our zoning, but again, there's no such
Got the
facility in
blade.
Mashpee. There was a goal and action defined to work to provide local and state incentives for financially feasible renewable energy devices, but eliminate loopholes that existed in past federal and state legislation. We don't know what the town did with regard to eliminating loopholes that existed in whether they lobbied the federal or state governments for changes. But the Commonwealth has taken a pretty significant initiative in establishing the Mass Save program and making energy efficient devices available for residents. So I would say I would always refer people to that particular program, but there is no such local program. Develop methods to maximize solar gain. The Massachusetts Zoning Act contemplates solar gain and solar access, and I just need to take a further dive into our zoning bylaw or any other requirements about how we manage solar gain. But the Zoning Act, again, does not allow us to unreasonably regulate solar energy facilities. So people generally have the right to a solar gain or solar access easement on their properties. So I would say that the Dover Amendment of the Massachusetts Zoning Act pretty closely regulates what is and is not permissible for access to solar for solar energy systems, particularly in residential districts. Develop methods to upgrade the energy efficiency of existing housing stock. So again, we've adopted stretch code for substantial improvements to existing homes. And again, there are not, the methods that are required are those that are required of the Massachusetts Building Code for people to enhance the insulation of their homes, but also I would refer them again to the Mass Save program again. The tower, gosh, let's see. It appears that I have not answered this last question relative to working with state banking authorities to find ways to make energy efficiency mortgages better utilized in the state. I need to follow up on that question. I'm not familiar with what an energy efficiency mortgage is, or if this is something that is it's still a program or
I don't even know,
product, a
do we have a
financial product
county
that is still
energy committee?
offered. John, do you know what that is?
I don't think they exist anymore.
All right, so I did note that this is one particular element that, in consideration of current trends,
Right.
Current priorities, what's commercially viable for renewable energy needs a pretty significant once-over.
Yep.
And that's the totality. These chapters are relatively short. Any questions?
Anybody have any comments? Anybody from the public? Yes, Lynn Barbie. And I just want to say hi to Blake. He's on both video and audio.
Hi, Lynn Barbie, Surf Drive. So I was just looking at this, which is in the packet, and that's what we're talking about, right? The natural resources piece?
We are talking about my assessment of the 1998 energy chapter.
Oh, okay.
We skipped over that.
Oh,
relatively quickly, but it's going to be on our next agenda. Do you have something to say about it now?
well, because it's personal, I was looking at what's page 7, it's receiving waters and impairments. And it actually has the Childs River and Red Brook River on there. And I wanted to know what it means, unimpaired for some uses and not assessed for others. Because my impression is that Mashpee, Quashnet, and Santuit are in very different status than Red Brook and Childs.
I'll have to follow up with you, Lynn.
Oh, so that's table 4-3.
Yes, 4-3.
Okay.
Because Childs is, we don't know exactly what's there, because it's along where they wanted to do the solar, at least the part of it that's in, some of it that's in Mashpee. And then Red Brook is right along my neighborhood. And one of my neighbors was just asking me what was going on with Red Brook, so. And I know there's stuff going on, it was confusing to me how those were all in the sort of the same category.
Lynn, could you cite for me that section you're referring to again?
It's table 4-3. I have it on page 7 of the natural resources, not the land
Yeah,
use.
I'm just taking a look here.
Or maybe it's, yeah. Yeah, I think it's the natural resources.
It's in the front of.
So again, it's from
And
Mass
it may be-
GIS. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's history or not. So, anyway, as I was looking through this, it's like, wait a minute.
And Lynn, what was your question, just so I can get an
Well,
answer for you?
Mashpee River, Quashnet River, and Santuit River, I think of them as being in a different status than Red Brook, which was a bog until very recently, and now they're restoring it, and I think that's wonderful. But it's not much right now, and the Childs River, the part that's north of Old Barnstable, I don't know if we know what the status of that is, because that's on the land that Drew wanted to examine and was not permitted to go see what's going on, because it's on the edge of where they were planning to do the solar. But there is a little piece of Childs River there, I think.
So your question is, you have all these rivers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're in radically different state from your observation, but they're all category 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me get some info on for
Madam
you.
Chair?
Yes.
Do you know what this means, unimpaired for some uses and not assessed, or do you know, Evan?
I would have to revert to the 2016 integrated list of waters that's this Mass GIS layer and just,
I don't know,
Get some
Blake, do
clarity
you
on it.
know that? Are you familiar with those terms for rivers that Mass GIS uses? It's category 2, unimpaired for some uses and not assessed for others. So I'm assuming that some uses are swimming, fishing.
Yeah, but
Right,
I'm
drinking.
looking at Mashpee River, which is near me, and I look unimpaired. I mean, I've seen people fishing in there. This is off of Great Neck Road, going through the woods, catching it.
Right.
Over that way. But I wouldn't fish there.
Yeah, I didn't understand, which is why I asked.
Thank you.
That's a good question, thank
For
you.
pointing it out.
I'll clarify what the data is
Great.
from and what it means.
And we might want to use throw in some information in there, just so everybody knows what that means. Like, I'm sure Mass GIS has a nice, long explanation of what category 2, and the continuation of the table goes to category 4A and 5, so. All right. All right, so you want to do the assessment for municipal buildings and facilities?
Find where to put it. There it is. Yes. So, as a reminder again, the goals for municipal buildings and facilities in 98 to ensure adequate municipal facilities to meet community needs, to ensure that the location and construction of municipal buildings and facilities is consistent with Mashpee's other planning goals, to ensure that the construction and maintenance of municipal buildings and facilities enhances community pride and the visual quality of our built environment, to maximize non-property tax funding sources for new municipal buildings and facilities, to ensure that new development provides or contributes a fair share of the cost of municipal infrastructure and services necessary to support it, to ensure that new development is located so as to most efficiently utilize existing municipal infrastructure, to ensure that Mashpee's interests are fully represented in the location and development of regional facilities. There was an action defined to formalize a process to conduct a space needs assessment for municipal buildings and facilities every 5 years. Currently, space needs assessments are conducted on an as-needed rather than at an as-needed basis, as opposed to every 5 years or on a set schedule. There was recently space needs assessments conducted for the DNR facility, the Department of Natural Resources facility, and the Department of Public Works. And again, there has not been a townwide space needs assessment in recent years that we are aware of. We asked the DPW director a question about school facilities, because the 1998 comprehensive plan contemplates the construction of 2 additional school facilities, and I inquired whether or not the decline of the school population is necessitating the merger of the schools at some future point, or whether or not the existing facilities are adequate. And it was her reply that the existing population is enough to retain what is currently there, and there are no plans currently in place to merge those facilities.
And if there's not been a townwide space need assessment, how can you determine that there's no consideration for reduced space?
Well, we do need to just have a follow-up conversation, like I noted here, with the superintendent and her staff, and what their future goals are, and what their needs may be for future programming or changes in population, et cetera.
Thank you.
In the 1980 plan, there was a contemplation to expand public safety facilities, and particularly a fire station on the north side of the town. We do have the fire substation now on the south side of the town. And a goal of developing an impact fee program, and there is no existing impact fee program in the town other than those fees that are collected and made available to the town by the Cape Cod Commission when taken in by the commission for developments of regional impact that are dispersed to the town upon request by the selectmen.
So what would that look like?
What would what look like? I'm sorry.
An impact fee program?
So again, like we had a presentation, I want to say 2 years ago from council relative to impact fees, but it would be some regulation in the zoning bylaw or general bylaws that would define a program for payments to the town, or some program like for traffic, for example. Impact fees have to be directly related to the cost associated with the development. So they're often challenged and difficult to enforce. I don't know if there is a good example of a program that's municipally managed. The Cape Cod Commission is unique in that they're statutorily empowered to take in impact fees. And so they are lawful. Often, like, they are done with like water or sewer districts where, you know, the cost of connecting is your fee.
Okay.
Well,
But-
yeah, not the fire station, you'd have an awful lot of traffic issues and everything else.
We would need to, I think, work closely with council on any such program. We've
Okay.
discussed it with him, but I think it's legally complicated.
We've talked about it a little bit, about affordable housing and wastewater.
Yeah.
And I remember that
It was during
meeting.
COVID, it was a
He
Zoom
was
meeting.
like, just, don't ask them for money for the wastewater treatment facility, but you can ask them for the certain type of system.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, excuse me, go ahead.
There was a goal of establishing a process for dealing with regional facilities to make sure Mashpee's interests are best represented. This is things like courthouses and things like that, or regional transportation facilities. I don't believe there is a process, and no such regional facilities have been cited here since 1998. The next gets into facilities recommendations and actual improvements. First was Town Hall. There was a Phase 1, $1.5 million renovation project completed at the plan's inception in 1997. DPW Director believes Phase 2 the assessments for Phase 2 were completed. The only expansion contemplated at the present time, however, is additional parking facilities to the rear of Town Hall. And since 98, the Phase 3 additional office space as needed at the rear of Town Hall was never constructed. Again, it's the parking that's currently the issue. DNR has since moved out of the facility. Recreation has moved outside of the facility.
Oh, okay.
So we're kind of growing outwards to additional facilities as opposed to making improvements here at 16 Great Neck Road North. The DPW facility, there was an action of including additional garage space in the town CIP, the capital improvement program process, and add space capacity of 8,000 square feet, a portion of which will be heated. There was a space needs assessment completed, and there was a 40 by 80 foot garage. So what's that, 3,200 square feet? 300, how big is that? It's pretty small. A garage was built strictly for small equipment storage, and it is not heated. They wanted to identify a site to be used for material storage and develop the material storage site. And there are existing facilities and bins for material storage, but they are inadequate according to the DPW director. There's a lack of space for vehicle storage. There was an action defined to build an additional 1,600 square foot bay into the maintenance garage. No bay was ever constructed. Develop a storage yard and long-term storage area on the capped landfill site. There is now a solar array on the capped landfill site, so no storage yard exists there. Build a second phase of the garage expansion, never completed.
Never done.
The DPW facility is in in need of repairs.
That's right.
And they have no covered storage, it's all
Yeah.
open. Which is an issue for maintaining their vehicles and stuff, because they all get beaten by the elements and things like that. So the library had a bunch of steps and actions built into it, but in 1998, the library was non-existent as we now know it. It was in a different facility. And so after 1998, we constructed a new library seemingly to meet all the needs of the 1998 plan. So again, no renovations ever happened to
That
the old
tiny
library.
little library, the brick
They-
building, yeah.
We constructed the new library over there on Steeple Street.
Is the current library 16,000 square feet or bigger?
I don't know, Rob, I'll follow up with you on
I
that.
mean, it seems like that, if it was in the plan, they would go for that target.
Yeah.
I think it was bigger, pretty sure.
That question I did not ask. The archives. Conduct an archives building renovation study to identify the cost of renovation expansion projects. There was a renovation to the archives building. I needed to get a date from the DPW director. I did not obtain it yet.
Yeah.
Undertake the construction of the facility following engineer design and identification of funding sources. And again, the renovation was completed, and we assume that funding sources and design plans were required to complete that work.
Yeah.
Under the discretion of the tribal council, move the Awkway Chapel from its location at the Meeting House Cemetery onto Collins Lot. It took me a second to figure out what this was, but the Awkway Chapel is actually the one-room schoolhouse, and it went from, it moved twice, first to the Meeting House, and then from the Meeting House to the Collins Lot across the street there in the community park. For the Wampanoag Museum, I did reach out to David Whedon, who did provide me a thorough email relative to the museum, which I intended on putting here and seemingly did not. I will follow up with you on it. But essentially, there was the reason I had asked David is because at the time, the Wampanoag Museum, the Avant House, was a municipally owned facility, and it was, I don't know, it's given to the tribe and then taken in for, and put into trust as part of their reservation. And so, David did note that there was, I think, a needs assessment for the expansion of display space. They are interested in expanding the existing parking facilities, but the current site is relatively constrained, and they might need a future land swap to facilitate that growth. We think there's a nearby town-owned parcel where a land swap could be facilitated, but he feels like a lot of these actions were not carried through. And his number one concern right now is to enhance programming, enhance display, increase the availability of parking if we can manage expanding the parking facility via land swap if there's adequate land area available. Similar to the library, the senior center was about conducting needs assessments and creating certain programming within that facility, but the senior center at this time was the kids club, and after 1998, the new senior center was constructed.
This is a chapter where a lot of stuff got done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and this is where the implementation plans make a lot of sense, because most of this is capital improvement programs where the relative department head is the one to submit the requests. So
Okay.
when the roles and responsibilities are really clearly defined, things can happen.
It made it easier.
Right.
The cemetery, goal of clearing 5 acres of land at a parcel located at Great Neck Road South, where the new cemetery is. to create a master plan of who will design the project with the associated costs. The cemetery was sited and built in 2011 as Phase 1, and they are currently starting plans for a Phase 2 expansion. There was a goal of building a community center to expand the current recreation building. In 1998, I'm not sure where the recreation building was, if it was the one that's currently in Heritage Park. Mary Bradbury is very interested in seeing a community center get built in Mashpee. She has made it clear since the day I started here, but no community center has been built. But to my understanding, there was a needs assessment or a feasibility study done for such a facility at some point in the past. That's the update.
It's always nice to read about something that was planned and was done. You know, really.
Finally.
One thing we might want to look at is one of the very first votes I went to town meeting on was the override or something like that for the senior center. You know, there's other towns, their senior center is their community center, and it has priority, you know, for seniors during the day and other priorities as you get kind of after school and stuff like that. And it just might be interesting in lieu of, you know, breaking ground on a whole new community center, could we expand on something we already have? Would the original funding of these places allow that?
Is there land enough on the senior center to expand?
There might not be parking, for sure.
But if you have uses that, you know, community centers, you know, aren't used by children during the day because of school.
So you're saying
Like
use
it-
the same space, but at different times?
Yeah, like if you had it,
Seniors use that space at night? Occasionally?
it could be intergenerational, that's all I'm saying, you know, usually senior centers don't stay open late. People like to go out, older people like to go out during the day, but school kids need stuff at night and on the weekends. So it's just an idea it's a cost-saving idea, because is it Howard? Their whole senior center, their housing authority, their community center is all in one place.
It's cheaper, I mean.
And they just kind of segment certain times for different groups. And when you go there, you have seniors coming in for that congregate Meals on Wheels, and there's a childcare facility. So they come in, this is before COVID, but they come in, and the kids from the childcare like come out and say hi. So it's like this really nice intergenerational kind of, it's a community center. It's more than just a senior center, it's a community center.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, it's something to think about. And the new director of the senior center used to work for the recreation department, so Heidi. So maybe we could sell it. Anybody have any more comments? Anyone from the public? Okay. All right, next item is the draft survey. I sent Evan a red line version. We went over it briefly at 4 o'clock today. Some things have stayed, some things have not. It was a really good conversation. So I don't know how you guys, if you guys have comments on the survey. If you are comfortable with Evan, you know, editing the survey based on my conversation with him, or go, whatever you want to do, we can go through it page by page now, whatever you guys want to do. I think my big goal was to make it shorter.
So this survey we're gonna send to the people?
Yes, online
Okay, online, but
and paper.
I like to see it 3 pages, 4 pages.
I did want to address the issuance of the survey with the board for, if I can take a moment now to do that, Mary.
Yes,
So we are coming up towards, we're approaching the end of community engagement, but we still have two virtual workshops to run that we're asking Weston and Sampson to help us with. One is the virtual general workshop. One is with the parents of school-age children, which I've reached out to the schools to begin working on now. And on top of all of the other engagement we've built into this program since contracting with Weston and Sampson, we really need to amend our agreement to capture the additional services that we're proposing Weston and Sampson assist us with. So we have worked on a contract amendment for $15,000, which we currently have the budget for.
Uh-huh.
But with that increase in $15,000, we end up at the top end of our budget with rough numbers around $3,000 remaining in our budget. So I am concerned about developing the paper survey and having the money to pay for the postage and the printing.
Oh.
So what I'm going to suggest is, because I think it's important to have them carry through the last few engagement opportunities with us, is to obviously, because also what I'm concerned about, and I discussed this a little bit with Blake this morning, their response rate for paper surveys recently has been about 2%. So my general concern is that we spend $5,000 or $6,000 on printing and mailing these and getting limited responses. And additionally, when many people receive that paper survey, they're going to do it online anyway.
Oh, okay.
So what I might suggest as an alternative is we do online as planned, we make paper surveys. I could do a mailing from my office with all of the information accessed online, or with my information so someone could request a paper survey from me, pick it up from the library, or pick it up from the senior center, because I can do all of those printing services in-house.
So you could print on demand.
I could print on demand.
That's good.
And it'll save us the money, and we'll be within budget and get everyone in on time.
Can we put an ad in the paper though, for a couple of weeks?
I
saying,
see no issue with
We have
that.
the survey online, please do it, and tell them, if you want to do a paper survey, they're at the town.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I feel like this is a reasonable approach to stay, within our budget without having to ask for more money
We sent a postcard already to everybody, okay? So, no, we don't have any money for another postcard or a mailing. Okay, well,
Good.
that's
Sounds
life.
good idea.
So it's just the cost benefit of the two additional workshops or the cost of the mailing is really what we're deciding at this moment. I think we can have both with a modified approach.
Yep, and I think having them on display at places that people go to, because they don't have computers, right?
Yeah.
The senior center and the library. They go there they go to the library to use the computer, so that's a good place to catch them.
So I just wanted to raise that with you before it was go time. So if you're comfortable with that, that'll be the approach we take.
We might be able to send them out with Meals on Wheels, too. So I have,
There'd be so
you know what
many
I mean? Because
opportunities,
it's,
To hand, to use this, even the paper one. Like I've got, hundreds going to come to a meeting in August. I know we're not going to, but they'll be ready, what they're thinking about it. I agree with you. I think it's 2% is ridiculous.
Well, it's a large investment for a relatively limited response.
And people are busy today. They really are.
Well, at these community, maybe a Southport workshop or something, can you have a couple of laptops set up for people
Well, I
to
could
take the
have
survey?
I could hold like a survey event where I, buy pizzas and make paper copies available to folks at the senior center or something like that. I'm more than happy to get paper copies in people's hands, but I don't want to put it through the mail and
Right.
crush our budget.
Right, no.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
so Lynn has something to say. Go ahead. So we have 2 virtual meetings coming up.
I actually do have a couple of questions on this.
Oh, yes, okay.
Lynn Barbie. So I volunteer to sit at the library at designated times and give people surveys and have them fill them out there or whatever. But I also think maybe Oktoberfest, if we had a table, we could have
Okay.
some surveys there.
Yeah.
And the other place I would say is in the school committee, because there may be parents who don't have high-speed internet, would like to have a paper copy. I'm assuming we're doing them all in English, we're not doing any bilingual, but I think that's another group, I'm thinking besides the senior center and the library,
I
that,
mean, we could even send them home with kids in the first week of school or something like
That's a
that.
good thing.
or, yeah,
Okay.
whatever. I mean, there would just be, because that's another group of people who, a lot of haven't been able to come to meetings because life, right? But that would be a group of people, and either like through the PTA or the school committee or whatever, get the word out to people. But I'm thinking maybe Oktoberfest, if we have a table, that would be, and some
Too
pens.
bad, but we sent them
Anyway,
over to.
but I volunteer to go to the library and sit there, or the senior center, and, say, on these days, at this time, come and pick up your survey, or do the survey there and collect them, whatever.
Thanks, Lynn.
When we send them home with the children, the school children, maybe if their parents fill them out to get an ice cream cone at,
We do need to
That
work
way
out
the
an
kids can be-
incentive for the survey, which I'll start working on as well.
Yeah.
I just tried to.
Getting donations for an incentive.
All right, so we've covered,
has a question.
we're up to speed on that. So John has a question on the survey questions.
A couple of questions, mostly for Blake. For example, on question 3, Blake, can you hear me?
You should just
Yep,
be really
good.
loud. It's hard from that side of the table.
In some places, we use descriptors, and in other places, we don't. And I'm wondering, is there a reason for that, or should we be consistent? Like we say, rural character of the town, should it be just character? We say small town lifestyle, should it be lifestyle? There are places where we say traffic congestion, should it be just traffic? We don't, and then, so we're sort of inconsistent. And I'm just wondering if we should be consistent and not, my preference would be, you don't self-impose a descriptor.
So what do you want, town character or rural character?
I just want character.
I had suggested not utilizing rural
Town,
character
isn't
for
it?
the same reasons, and
Why?
Because it's about the town.
But they know that.
But character could be a character of a person.
I think we had initially used town character.
Town.
But
I want to be consistent.
I
We
understand,
should,
and I agree. I had the same
should-
comment.
If we're going to use, in question 4, we talk about the loss of small-town character. Maybe some people don't think there was a loss of small-town character.
All right, so want to start at 3?
Well, I'm just, overall, it's a question to Blake, should we be consistent and either use or not use descriptors? My preference would be you don't impose our,
Right,
whoever, the
that's-
survey.
That's definitely the goal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. And one such example, and I think it depends on the question, John. Sorry, if Blake's going to answer, I'm jumping in, but I went through this exact specific lens with Ashley for 8 hours.
yeah.
And like in the 2011 survey that was issued, it was something about quality of life or impacting quality of life, and it was the sluggish economy was the term. So we
Right.
proposed getting rid of sluggish.
Right.
For that exact reason. And we tried to, depending on the question, clarify or remove issues that really just give you a certain feeling. You're going to respond a certain way to a question that uses that particular word.
Right.
But another example, for traffic, we're talking about problems. So when traffic volume is moving well, it's not a problem. The congestion's the problem, so we're trying to gauge what the problem is.
So would we say traffic flow?
We could say traffic flow.
All right, looks good.
We could say
flow.
traffic flow.
Yeah.
All right, so you wanted to say town character on question 3?
I don't care. I would prefer just character, but that's fine.
But
I think we need
Adjective.
either town, we need an adjective.
That's fine.
You choose, rural or town?
Town.
Town, all right.
But then on page 445, it says loss of small town character.
Yeah, so let's tag that. Is there anything else on question 3?
I would just add, I had born raised here. That's not,
I did too.
yeah. It's referenced in near friends, family, and/or grew up here, but I would make it a separate
What
choice.
question is that?
Question 3.
3. It's on the back
On the
side.
continued page, page 4.
All right, so what do you, so I had near friends, family, and/or grew up here. Do you want,
I would make it a separate choice.
okay, grew up here?
Born, raised here.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do,
Underneath that.
yeah.
In some places, we say attainable/affordable.
No.
And in other places, we don't.
I was trying to use attainable in everywhere. And I discussed this with Mary a little bit today, because in former surveys, we contemplated affordable housing, which can mean two different things generally, and we contemplate affordable housing in specific reference to low or moderate income households. When we, and my opinion is that, you know, the issue has grown beyond those earning at or below 80% of the average median income, or up to 120% of the average median income.
Agreed.
It's impacting people with greater incomes. So really, it's about the attainability of housing, which is why we felt, Ashley and I, that attainable housing was a good way to frame that. Mary and I did go through and address some of these things specifically today, and if we can find a specific example, we can go through that. But
So-
it should be consistent, and that was my concern about being overly prescriptive and ignoring essentially a large group of the population who's impacted by the housing issues we're experiencing today.
Right.
All right, so all right, so that's under housing.
Why don't we just go through it?
Yeah, so I just want to finish, John, I just want to finish section quality of life. So we're going to go for question 4, we're going to have population growth. Because if you just leave population, that means the people itself. If you have a problem with the population, it's, you know what I mean?
Right, could be.
Right, so keep growth in there, population growth. We're going to have traffic
No, I don't-
flow. Or decline, we could have traffic growth or decline.
I discussed this one with Mary today as well. Population, I mean, what is that? It doesn't, you need to qualify it in some particular way, in my opinion. I mean, the issue, because we're talking about problems.
Yep.
This population is not declining. We know by the data that it's increasing. So if we're going to ask a question about population, the
answer,
problem,
not a
it's
problem.
either the growth is not a problem or it
Yep.
is a problem. I feel like it's appropriate to qualify it with the descriptor,
Okay.
in my opinion.
So we would say traffic flow.
Traffic flow, that's a good one. Town services, I broke out, I wanted to put examples, because like,
I mean, again, the loss of small
yes.
town character.
All right, so what do you want to say there?
I don't know if you can lump, now that we're looking at it again.
You want to
That
see?
you can lump all those services together, because you might have a problem with one, but not another.
I wonder if instead of loss, you use the term evolving or changing, because if you were to consider a changing,
Yeah.
Okay.
a changing
Good.
character as
So changing.
serious,
Yep.
then you obviously are concerned with,
Changing town character.
Or evolving or something. I mean, loss implies that it's a negative.
Right, right, we want to get away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to break out all the town services. That will add like 5 lines.
Yeah.
so no, we're not adding police, fire, schools?
Leave it just that way collectively.
She wanted to break it out,
Oh, I see.
you know, but I, okay, anything else on 4?
No, and I mean, I didn't go through every single one, but if you're gonna, descriptors, non-descriptors, just be consistent.
Right. I agree.
And then on housing, I guess my question would be on housing, like that first question, where do we land on attainable, affordable?
Well, so back in the day, it used to be homelessness. Then it got rebranded affordable. Then it got rebranded workforce, and now it's getting rebranded attainable. It's like.
You know, there's also
Just-
another option here, and it's to get rid of the question. And I'll explain. We have identified that there's a significant need for more attainable housing on Cape Cod.
Right.
What is one's perception of the problem matter, and I'm asking hypothetically. We know that there's a problem. What we need to get at is potential solutions to the problem. Someone could respond, not sure,
You want to just put housing?
but there's data that demonstrates that there is a need.
No, I know, but
So
you.
how do we deal with that?
You want to see which one on this list pops up number one. And I predict that housing is either gonna be number one or number two. So you could put just
You
housing
could
in
just
this
be, right, you
question.
could just use housing.
You could just use housing.
Simple.
Okay.
Need for more housing, period, without,
Right, so this is
Designated role.
asking, what's the most serious problem facing Mashpee? Housing.
And should we put under that, what type of housing?
It's further down
We
there.
have a section on
Yeah,
housing.
it's further down.
Right. Oh, I see, yeah, all right.
Lynn, do you have a comment about the quality of life section?
Lynn Barbie, I know you're trying to keep it short, but I was just wondering if the police and fire might not want to have themselves, those separated out emergency services to see what people think. If the impression is it's all really good or there are weaknesses. I mean, I know it's a whole bunch of it's like a few other lines, but we haven't had our workshop with the emergency services and, yeah, and I just think there may be people who say,
So when you go to page 21, you might not have this in front of you, and if you want my copy, you can have it. But
Okay.
it does, it says municipal buildings, facilities, and services. How satisfied are you with the following town
Yeah, I thought they
services?
would-
so you can
And it
separate
has
the-
fire, ambulance
Okay,
service,
all right,
police.
all right. I don't have it in the packet, so.
Yeah.
Here, you can have mine. You want to pass that over? Pass it on down. Okay, so now we're in housing.
Yeah, I just had a question on question 6, why the last bullet was taken out, the financial incentive to private
Financial to,
developers.
so I wrote it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets up. Town subsidy or financial incentives to create housing affordable to low, moderate income households.
Okay, so it was just reworded.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So anyways, question number 4 is going back in. I have it crossed out. Evan convinced me that it needs to go back in.
What's that?
So are you
Yeah.
you'll send another version around?
Yeah, we'll clean this up. I had, because in my opinion, you can't just ask about multifamily housing in town because multifamily housing represents so many different types of housing. So we should parse it out into,
Yeah.
because we need to understand what are the types of multifamily housing options that the town may support.
Yeah. And then question 5 and question 7 are in question 6 now.
Okay.
And then question 3, instead of saying, what do you want, housing or open space? We're going to make a chart that says, we have limited land available to us in town. We're not going to quantify it. Remember before, we had it quantified, and we're not going to quantify it. We're going to just, in general, it's like 13% or 11% of land is either developable or available to be put aside as open space or protected in some other way. So just kind of like, how should the town prioritize the use of that land? And then have, the housing or the affordable housing, whatever we end up with that term, open space,
Yeah.
municipal work, commercial development. Some people want commercial development because it generates tax revenue, right? Residential, so Evan's gonna come up with a list So we don't just have two things fighting it out, it's a whole list of things that can be prioritized against each other.
Okay.
And so I opt for all three descriptions for housing: affordable, workforce, and attainable. Think that will drive everybody crazy, or?
What's the difference between workforce and attainable?
You have to define it, you know, that's
So,
the thing.
so affordable serves low income, 80% of area median income or lower.
Right.
The state finally defined workforce.
What is it?
It's 60% of AMI to 125,
That's-
120.
You need more of an explanation.
Yeah, which
for
people taking the survey would
that
not
doesn't
understand.
mean a thing.
This is
But
why I
it's
felt
like-
attainable
it's-
was the right approach.
It's like affordable housing for workers, right?
Hmm.
And that, it's an important, attainable,
They're all
The
gonna
reason
respond
that I
based on their
propose
own-
it is
people want
because
to know if it's for low income or not, if there's an income
Yeah, but I could be
requirement.
working and still be low income.
Right,
I think the big challenge with how to frame these questions is that housing is becoming unattainable for so many income groups.
Right.
That exceed even the 120% threshold.
Right.
So the attainability of housing, even
Is
for
the
people
problem.
earning up to 150% of the average median income, is getting harder. So I think we have to be nuanced in how we approach these questions. I kind of understand the cost benefits of each approach. But, I think it's not just about addressing those at or below 80% or up to 120. It's a much broader category of people these days.
So if we were
What
going
the
to
individual
use,
doing the survey is gonna wanna say. Everybody has their own definition of what it is. And it's gonna be attainable at every level, yes or no?
here's the deal, I've seen towns come together and change bylaws and include density because it was housing that was gonna serve low and moderate income households. We don't wanna lose that, we wanna gauge the interest in that.
I don't disagree at all. I think it's important to frame the questions that consistent and in recognition of the scope of the problem.
yeah,
Because I just don't want to leave a critical mass of the population out of the questions that we're asking. Because if we could produce hundreds of units of deed-restricted affordable housing for people at or below 80% of the average median income,
it's not going to solve the
a
problem.
massive portion of the people who are trying to work here would not qualify for it.
Right.
That's right.
Can,
So Evan,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you.
Yes,
So the Urban Land Institute has some definitions that we can follow for workforce housing versus affordable, et cetera. So we can go through that with Evan and bring it back to you folks.
good.
I would suggest you follow the Urban Land Institute
okay.
definitions.
Thanks, Blake.
All right, so now we're in economic development. And I just want to just quickly jump in. You'll see a lot of red lines in here. What I suggested to Evan was that after we get this all through, we hold the charrette about zoning. One of our action items is going to be to address zoning changes, right?
Yeah.
And so if we keep these questions about, what do you want to see in this part of Route 28 and this part of the Rotary, you're going to have to put maps in there. And like normally what you do is you have a charrette with maps on the wall and you get it out there what you're asking about. I think we need to do that as like one of the steps after the LCP is.
As an implementation step,
Yeah.
which I'm okay with.
Okay.
We want to know those answers, but I think that it deserves at least one big charrette with all the maps.
Question number one, I think we need a "the"
A what?
in the question. To what extent do you feel the town should initiate the following economic development?
Thank you.
And then I just had a question, why do we qualify housing as luxury housing as opposed to housing?
That's a carryover from the 98 document. I would suggest striking luxury.
Yeah, I would
All
strike
right.
it too. Absolutely.
And then number 2, we're going to keep, not cross out, right? Right, Evan?
Except we're not going to use increase in the property tax rate. Because would you support investments to pay for each of the following purposes? People get turned off when they just think about
That's
tax
in,
increases.
that's not crossed out, that's in.
Yep, it's, right.
reworded.
But, right, I crossed it out because it said increase in property tax, because everyone's going to be like, no, no, no.
And
But
I-
an investment is different.
Yeah, when we discussed it, big goal of the survey is to get at specific actionable items the town would support. So I feel like it's important to ask what people would support, but we just don't want to frame it as if it's going to directly impact their wallets. Everyone would say no.
All right, so then 3, 4, 5, and 6, we're going to deal with zoning charrettes afterwards.
Yep.
What happened with 7? What did we decide to do? Keep it, I wanted it kind of merged with question 1. Is that possible?
In economic development, page 9.
7?
Yeah, on page 9.
I thought it was redundant of kind of like the first question.
I have no notes on it, so.
Financial incentives.
I think one gets at, general economic development strategies in terms of uses and things like that. The other is what should we subsidize essentially? How, should we provide tax breaks or some other incentive? I mean,
I say keep it.
Keep it?
Yeah.
At least for now, we can, once I clean this up, we
Yeah,
can.
well, we got to see
reevaluate
how long
questions.
it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
If we have no questions on the
8 is good.
8, then we can go to sustainability. So I asked Evan to look up the definition of sustainability. This is the one I found online, but,
There are more complicated ones, because I've looked it up too, but we're trying to get something that everyone could understand.
I think, I don't know. I don't know if that definition provides enough information.
I don't think, I'm
Yeah.
having trouble with it. All right, so.
I'll look up some,
Yeah,
All right,
find something.
Evan's still going. We're going to keep question 1. How do you rate your understanding of sustainability? Mary obviously
see,
is
I
going to
don't
say
like that
4.
question. I don't see the need for that.
Evan wanted to keep it, so I'll,
well, we discussed it. Ultimately, I think but it's intent on getting at the person's understanding of the issues. Because it could potentially impact how they respond to questions. But then, when we talked through it, I didn't want to, alienate or patronize our residents and assume they don't know anything. So I'm not opposed to striking it.
Definition's
But
not a bad
that's the
idea.
purpose of the question is to
Definition's not a bad
understand
idea.
their ability to respond.
So everybody's a different word, a meaning, but
So
I'm
I'm
either
okay
way.
with getting rid of it.
so we're going to strike question 1. We're going to keep
would,
the definition, we're going to define it up top.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you get a better definition, they'll understand it.
Yeah.
I thought we didn't need question 2. And then how concerned are you about these sustainability issues? These are the things that we identified in our
MVP.
MVP.
Yeah.
I think those are all of them.
I'll double check the report.
Yeah, okay.
I think you need 2 if you're going to ask 3.
You want to keep 2?
Yeah.
Okay, keep 2.
That's almost like
Asking the person who's taking the survey to be a scientist, how sustainable. If you ask me that, I could only give you a few points. I wouldn't know deeply how sustainable we are.
Well, based on the definition that Evan's
That's why
going to provide.
question 1 would have been
that,
important.
okay, so,
Right.
well, no, then maybe if you get a good definition of sustainability, I might be able to intelligently answer that question.
All right, so 3.
I was not opposed to striking it, personally. It's not opposed. Because we are dealing with valuable survey real estate here, so I mean, if there are opportunities to remove questions,
Yeah.
we want to make sure the data gathered there's utility to the data and there's value to the data at the end of the analysis of the results.
You don't want everybody wondering, what do you mean by the question? Either.
All right.
So-
Right, and then they're guessing.
My opinion is that you don't need
That's
to
fine.
to
Okay,
answer
all
this.
right, we're gonna strike it, all right. And then Evan's gonna go over the bullet points for 3 and make sure we have everything covered in our MVP report. And yeah, go ahead. I punted 4 to Evan because I thought it was just too long and just needed a lot of work.
And the sustainability issues, I think we should ask trees, forests, because keeping
Is
our
that
trees.
under 3?
Well, at number 1 now, right, because you crossed
Oh,
out the
yeah,
other two?
yeah. No, let's keep to these numbers, so trees and
Yeah,
forests,
number 3, I
okay.
think, because we have a lot of protected forest land, which is keeping our air clean, keeping our wildlife.
So you work that proper grammar.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Evan?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Adding trees or
Well,
trees
my
slash
question
forest
in
and
response to that is, if, because we're asking about sustainability issues, of which we provide air quality as a response.
Trees are-
If you're
it's
concerned
implied.
about air quality, you're probably going to want to preserve trees
Trees.
and tree canopy and forest cover.
Right.
So I'm just not sure it needs to be spelled out separately if it's air quality is the problem.
Is that, would trees and forests go into,
Furthermore, trees mitigate
4?
heat islands, et cetera.
would that be, would trees bump into 4? Provide high-quality parks, facilities, are you talking, would a bullet point be provide high-quality forests?
Yeah, I
Go
think
there.
you have to rework 4.
Don't we ask questions about preservation of habitat and things like that, though? Can I put the trees and forest question on the back burner and see if there's an
Yeah.
opportunity to ask it?
Well, because if you're going to add it to 3, we've got water quality, you would add ponds and lakes, rivers, streams. It
I
just
think
doesn't.
it might
doesn't
have a
make
better
sense.
home in 4.
Yeah.
So you're gonna work on that. Are you
That's
okay
it.
with taking 5 and putting them up in 4 or striking them?
We discussed this one, and so this is what I was getting at. This question is about how concerned you are with certain things like habitat loss or loss of tree cover. To me, it's an important question to ask. And so you
Okay.
had suggested merging it with question 3 above, but your critique of question 3 that it was already quite busy.
Yeah.
So I think if
keep
we
it
can
separate?
manage them separately, it would be the
Okay.
better way to approach it.
So we're keeping 5?
And I could include something about like deforestation in that.
Aha.
Good.
You could add that as deforestation as another bullet.
Yes.
Then 6, I want to change it from areas than, rather than people, because it, people said that was kind of creepy. You might have like people reporting on each other and down, but I know it has to do with environmental justice, but I think that, I think that if there was, you know, because I'm so focused on affordable housing tonight, but if there was an affordable housing development in a floodplain, right? I know they're trying to say, you know, in your community, are you seeing that
Environmental
there's,
justice.
right, environmental justice, is there minority and low-income and/or low-income households that are vulnerable, you know, and it's different for us, because those vulnerable areas are usually waterfront property, right? Whereas in the city, those vulnerable areas are poor. So, so I switched it to areas. I think people are gonna say, yeah, my road floods in the King's Tide or something like that.
So it sounds like you've got work to do on these other sections.
There was, I think at this point, I had very limited comments from here on out, I think.
It was more like trying to compress things, making things that like, take out any bias, take out any duplicate, throw things in that were missed, that were just missed.
Okay.
Got your ancient ways in there, sir.
Good. We saw half of them, believe it or not.
Yeah. We wanted a question about the tribe on page 18. This is what I wrote. The Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Council and the Mashpee Select Board have recently reconvened regular meetings. What do you hope to see result from these meetings? Are there any matters you would like to see discussed at these meetings? Just a nice, open response. And when you get to facilities, municipal facilities and services, there's a question, same beginning, saying, are there any services or facilities that the tribe and the town could share? Open question.
Good. All right, so you'll send this back around?
Yeah, would you prefer I redraft and provide clean copy?
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
All right, yeah, happy to do it.
And look, right now, we have 3
Your free
descriptions. Are we good on the survey?
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
I went through quite a bit, and I Xed out a few things that I thought were redundant, but I think you clarified or enhanced
Thank
them.
you.
There was one issue, and it's in municipal buildings, question 1, page 17. It says, how satisfied are you with the following town services and facilities?
So it's our page 21.
And, we talked about the tribe and some of their facilities in here. But there's one facility, and many of my, I won't say constituents, but people that live near me, my neighbors, all have the same complaint, including my wife, and it's a municipal building, but not this municipality, municipal, it's the United States. It's the United States Post Office, down on Main Street of Mashpee Commons. Nobody likes that. It is totally unsatisfactory location. How do you like the U.S. Post Office location? Is it satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or, now we can't change the post office, but we could certainly hear their issues. I think it should be added to this list.
A big thing Ashley and I discussed as we developed the survey is when you ask a question and you obtain data pursuant to, that's tied to some specific action, you want to make sure the town is going to be in a position to actually do something about it. Otherwise, it's taking up survey real estate when there's nothing we can do. So it would be my suggestion not to include the post office for that reason.
Because the risk is you get 98% of the people say they hate the location and we can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
But-
Didn't you hear us?
But the town could write a letter to post office. I mean, I've heard this comment for 20
They were gonna move it at one time up there in the
They
library.
were gonna move
I
it,
mean-
and we were so excited that they were gonna move it. But I have heard that comment from a variety of people for 20 years.
So the town should write a
We hear
letter
this
anyway.
comment all the time. It's a comment that generally frustrates me because it's a parking question, right? Can't park there. Well, you can't park right in front of it, but you can park 2 minutes down the street and have a little short walk a block away, you know?
Park behind
True,
it.
but I mean,
Oh, you know what we need to put in the transportation thing is accessibility. Don't forget that.
Accessibility of what?
Mobility, accessibility.
Oh, that kind. Mobility /
Yes.
accessibility.
Well, it's coming up right now because of the post office.
And I
You know,
don't
it's
think
all
the-
relative. This post office gets busy during holidays and things, but if you've ever lived in a bigger, use your words, suburb, this is nothing.
Right, you wait your
Right.
turn.
Yeah.
This
You,
is,
you circle the building until
Have-
space opens up.
yeah.
Just to bring it back to the question, it would, I think it would be
Thank you.
consistent with best practice to ensure the questions we ask and the actions that are prioritized by the townsfolk who participate in this, we have the ability to effectuate some sort of change regarding.
Isn't the post office moving up to the post office? It's
What?
not, I mean, the town can ask the post office to move their building, but it's up to the post office.
We could ask, and they could say
That's all we
no.
can do.
So we should
I mean,
ask.
And they don't have the money to,
Oh, they don't have any,
Well, they're happy where they are.
they don't have any money.
they don't have no money at all.
Although where they were
It's a
going
no,
to
it's a no-win
be,
situation.
they were gonna move it next to the library
Yeah,
with
they
with
have
the
it all
children's
planned.
museum. It was really a
Hmm.
nice plan.
And I don't know if it was.
But the
Mashpee Commons.
the postmaster said no,
Yeah.
because he didn't want to spend the money on the architect. He didn't want to spend the money on the architect. It was a beautiful building. It was, I don't know if you've ever seen the, we'll have to dig them out. We'll have to find them.
I think Tom
Tom
O'Neill-
Ferrante
Tom O-
has them.
I think Tom O'Neill did the building.
Yeah.
He could have. It was like the new library
Yeah,
and
it
then
was
like a
nice.
small, you know what the putt-putt, the mini golf is,
Yeah.
right?
Right there.
It was right there. That was gonna be where the children's museum,
That'd be a good
little
location.
little shops and the post office. And then across the street, not on the green, there was gonna be, they were gonna, you know, where Pottery Barn is, they were gonna extend down those buildings. And there was gonna be top of the shop housing. And on that edge, on the village green, there was gonna be restaurants and outdoor
Yeah.
cafes. So it, yeah. 3 stories more,
Still be a parking problem there, though, because the people would be parking in the library parking.
I think they,
They would
but I
combine them,
think, they had more parking. They had parking for the building. So,
All right.
It's the question I get most. You know, I talked the LCT up, and they said, well, are they gonna move the post office? I said, answer the survey. You know,
Yeah.
they're gonna get your input. If that's your input, give it.
I mean, the other thing is if you do put that question on there, people will feel satisfied taking the survey.
Until
That's
we-
your prize. You have to answer all questions for us to consider
Until we do
your
nothing
opinion
with
about
it.
the post office.
Okay, moving on.
All right.
Blake is waving his hand.
Oh, Blake, yes, hi Blake, what's going on?
In here.
Oh, he said thumbs up.
Oh, good.
I think he's happy.
I think you're on a great roll. I have to get to something else and look forward to some more good input on Saturday. So thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye. Okay, so we have a workshop on the 23rd. So I'm going to be there to help facilitate. Will anybody else come in to help facilitate?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot.
Rob, do you,
I'm gonna be in Yarmouth that week.
oh,
I'm gonna be in Maine.
okay. Gee, this Maine trip we've taken.
Family reunion
Yeah.
for the
Lynn, are
whole
you
week.
available to facilitate? All right, so you 3 volunteers.
Should be fine. It would be myself, Ashley. We have one individual from Beta who will be joining us. Kathy Mahoney will join us again.
Good.
And Alex, we'll have Alex as well.
Okay.
Should be plenty.
Oh, that will be fine. That's enough. Okay. All right, so anyways, if anybody's listening at home, yes, Saturday, July 23rd at 10 a.m., we're going to be back at the Mashpee Public Library. And the topic this time is built systems. Oh, you didn't put the definition on this. You made the definition really quick. What's the,
The man-made physical aspects of a town that allow us to comfortably live, work, and recreate here.
Roads,
Roads, bridges, infrastructure in general, development patterns, transportation systems.
so wastewater facilities.
Wastewater
Drinking water
facilities,
facilities.
roads, bridges,
Boat ramps.
boat ramps, yeah.
Okay. How do I do this?
There's here, I got you.
Is he still on?
Is that in our packet, that one, or is that the thing we got?
No, that was outside. Do you want
Okay.
it? Okay, would you pass that over? Yeah, I took a picture of it on my phone so that I can send it out to people.
Oh, I don't need that. Does anybody want it?
And then August 7th, we're going to be at the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Council. They have meetings during the week, but then they also have general membership meetings on Sunday. So the one that we were scheduled to go to got rescheduled because of COVID. So August 7th at 2 o'clock, it's a Sunday, and we're going to be officially on the agenda, right?
Correct. I did send a message to David, and I talked with Trish today, because I got conflicting dates. 7th was proposed, and the 14th was also thrown out by
Okay.
Cassie, so I do want to clarify the date. And Trish had also alluded to me that these weekends, the 14th, the weekend of the 14th is the Narragansett powwow. And then at the next general body meeting is the Aquina powwow. So
That's a
they felt
family
that we might not get good attendance
Yeah.
at these meetings. So I'm awaiting a little bit more information
Yep,
from them.
I'm flexible, yeah.
And she said at the first meeting in September, this is from Trish,
That'd be
uniquely
better.
Trish, that might be the better meeting to get to,
Well,
but
September would be great.
I did have her connect with the chairman to pose these questions, so I'll provide a
Alright.
little bit more clarity when we hear back.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So let's see, go ahead, Evan, why don't you take us through the next two lines?
So we have been working with the folks over Southport and their Government Relations Committee. We are hosting a workshop on Tuesday, the 26th.
6.
Is that right?
Yep.
Tuesday, 26th.
26th.
It'll be before the EDIC meeting from 4 to 6.
Oh, okay.
I prepared a relatively abbreviated concept to get at a relatively informal discussion. They didn't want, they being Southport Board of Governors, didn't want a very formal presentation. So what I proposed to them is that we'll have 4 stations essentially set up. One for visioning, 1 built systems, 1 community systems, 1 natural systems. And at each of our workshops, what we've done is we ask people to first identify what the systems are. We're not going to do that. We're going to take what we've learned in our workshops, and I'm going to have printed large 24 by 36 boards identifying the systems, and then the facilitators will walk you, people will just roam around the room.
Good.
And hopefully you'll be present to just have conversations with people, and we'll capture their thoughts. That way I'll have refreshments and coffee, and it'll be more of a hangout with facilitated tables that will be manned by myself, and hopefully I would love volunteers. But we'll start with a brief presentation like we have in the past. It'll be myself. Hopefully at least one of you could join me. And the president of the Board of Governors is going to make some remarks. But then just a relatively informal social gathering to get at Southport priorities in an abbreviated framework that we've run our systems workshops in. So again, that'll be for Southport from 4 to 6. They have allowed additional homeowners associations to join us, so we've done a first reach out, and we've only gotten responses from 1 or 2 folks, so they are welcome there. But Alex and I need to follow up with them to see if there's representatives from those associations who would like to join us on that day. 4 to 6.
4 o'clock.
4 to 6, Tuesday, 26th.
Yeah, I can be there. I have it on my calendar.
Great. Additionally, I followed it up with Lynn we met from Mashpee Village. I think she's a property manager, programs manager over there. I floated a similar proposal to her for the community over at Mashpee Village. They hold a bingo night there that is apparently quite popular. So I'm gonna probably buy pizzas or something and do the same exact framework at Mashpee Village and get people there with pizza before they play bingo.
Oh, good for you.
But Lynn's on vacation until the 27th, I believe, so when she gets back, we're gonna settle those details. The last is just additional coffee hours with the business community. I reached out and had a conversation with the chamber today, and I floated August 3rd as the next one, but I need to confirm and get advertising and get the ball rolling to meet that date. I wanted, the 3rd is before our next planning board meeting where I'd like Ashley to be here, so I was hoping to set up additional meetings, starting with the business community and other department heads to kind of continue rounding out some targeted stakeholder interviews to follow up on some of what we learned in the workshops. And then the virtual workshops will follow through on now that I know I can amend the contract to facilitate and pay for the additional services. And so again, I did reach out to the superintendent and assistant superintendent today to begin thinking about particularly the school-age children workshop. I know, Mary, you've given a fair amount of thought to the general virtual workshop, but we'll need to begin building in the infrastructure for those and identifying dates.
Yeah, we need, like, for that one, we need to set
Some time.
everything with 3-week notice.
Yeah, and just a reminder to the board, if we're gonna move into September, I am not here, the 11th, the 17th, I think. Maybe it's the 4th, it's the week after Labor Day, I'm taking my, I don't wanna say this on TV, because they might be watching. We're going on a trip, and I'll be gone for the week. So I would prefer if we don't hold the workshop during that week.
That's cool, yeah, we won't. And remember, if we, you know, if these workshops kind of go on and on and on, we'll have the survey then.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, if we miss somebody, you know, while we were gathering all this information, we'll have the survey to have the workshop on.
As an aside, Alex has had a table set up. He did one day in Central Square, Mashpee Commons. We did the community concerts on Tuesday nights. So we're continuing to do kind of those little spot engagement sessions, and we'll be at the Senior Center barbecue next week on the 29th.
I feel like we need a Google Calendar. Keep on track of all this. All right, anybody else about the LCP? All right, moving forward, all business continued, Algonquin land clearing, there's something in a packet from the Cape Cod Commission that a referral as a DRR won't work, right?
That was their informal jurisdictional interpretation. There is a process in the Cape Cod Commission Act that would allow for a formal interpretation that would go to the full commission, but the informal jurisdictional interpretation is a staff review of the facts, the relevant information. They did send some questions to town council based on the correspondence that I had submitted, and after council opined, this is what staff's opinion was relative to a mandatory referral.
Any comments on that? None? We'll go to the floodplain bylaw amendments.
So I did put on top of your tables it's stapled together.
Oh, okay.
That is the final. I noticed a few things that needed to be addressed today. Karen had pointed out to me a redundancy in one of the sections. A paragraph completely repeated itself in the subdivision section. So that would have been section
174-62.
62.1, 170.
Thank you, yes, so the base flood elevation data for subdivision proposals were repeated also in 174-62, so I deleted it from 62. So there's no longer that redundancy. At the request of Karen and the rest of the board, I had contacted the Barnstable County Floodplain Coordinator relative to restricting the use of fill or filling in the floodplain in all flood zones, and she was overwhelmingly supportive of that endeavor. It will give us more credit in the community rating system, and Chatham is the only other town on the Cape who does this, but there was overwhelming support from her in that regard. So I've inserted a new section titled Prohibitions 174-67, no person shall fill, place, or dump in a floodplain any soil, loam, peat, sand, gravel, rock, or other material substance, refuse, trash, rubbish, debris, or dredged material with the exception of landscaping material as allowed under section 174-61 of this bylaw. We created exceptions for landscaping material at a structure's foundation that's required to be tapered to meet the natural grade within 10 feet of the foundation. And additionally, for the use of rock for the purpose of reconstructing a revetment or groin. And additionally, the use of dredged material specifically for beach nourishment. And I just want to also point out in the draft I had sent to you last week, I had forgotten to place in the prohibitions language regarding that no letters of map revision based on fill or letters of map amendment based on fill would be permitted. So if you propose a substantial improvement to your property and want to raise it out of the floodplain using fill or compacted fill, you can submit to FEMA a request to modify the flood maps consistent now that you're out of the floodplain. We're saying that's no longer permissible, which is allowed by these rules and regulations. So this was an issue in Chatham, and she felt that it would be a prudent approach to make sure that that language is included. The other thing that I wanted to note is that with the prohibition of fill in all flood zones, you can't build a basement beneath the base flood elevation of any floodplain. So it was an issue was raised about the use of solid wall foundations with flood vents in areas where there's a raise and replace of homes that have either a crawl space or a slab foundation or on cinder blocks, and then replacing it with a full excavated basement. Prohibiting the use of fill gets at that issue because you can't dig a full basement in a floodplain. So if you were to raise it out of the floodplain, then you could do it. But when you remove the ability to raise yourself out of the floodplain on anything but a solid wall foundation or stilts, you remove the ability to dig the full basement. So that gets at that issue also. So I did also additionally.
You understand that, right? Okay, all right.
Additionally, I just included explanations that were absent before. So this is, with your approval, ready to be submitted to the select board and has been thoroughly vetted by the Barnstable County floodplain specialist and is consistent with the minimum requirements that FEMA has asked us to amend.
So you addressed the question of fill, which was the one question that was raised before.
Yes, we
So
have.
with everything done, I would suggest we go forward.
And so if we go forward, this bylaw will be reviewed by town council as they always are.
Good.
So if there's no,
And it's mandatory, you have to have this or you don't get that NFIP,
Yeah.
National Flood
Right.
Insurance.
Oh, I know.
So
Specifically,
those people who need it have to have it.
the administrative requirements that are required by FEMA, most towns didn't include these, even though they've been requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program since the late 70s. We were silent on those administrative requirements that they're now enforcing, so we're putting those in. And there were a few sections of the current floodplain provisions that are, seriously in conflict with the building code. So we've rectified those conflicts.
You want a motion?
I'd accept a motion to submit this to the Board of Selectmen with a recommendation that it is placed on the next town meeting warrant as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. All right. Affordable and workforce housing. I think I reported this before. The Housing Assistance Corporation and Arden Russell, who works with them on helping people create accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in their homes. She does that throughout the Cape. They want to do a joint workshop with us, maybe October. Evan, would you be able to fit it in that?
October's good, yeah.
Yeah, I got a question from a local resident, and I said, well, maybe we should have something for everybody. So everybody can come who's interested in the bylaw and how to implement it, can come that night, hear from housing assistants, hear from Arden, hear from Evan. Maybe we can get the building commissioner to come.
He's
too.
already signed on, so
Oh, good.
he's ready to join us.
So that, if somebody has a specific question about their house, so, have it be like a presentation / workshop for people who are interested in creating ADUs, so.
Sounds good.
And then, under Clean Water Initiative, Karen's been researching tree bylaws.
I'm hoping that Evan and I can come up with one. There are a couple kinds of tree bylaws. One, it would be tree bylaws for residential use. Basically, the purpose of it is to, preserve and protect the trees on residential lots during, big demolition or construction. And it sort of has come to my attention in part because of the Algonquin 151, and then I've seen areas in town where they just strip the land of every tree on a lot. And you see stumps of, significant trees, that could have been saved, possibly. But that would be up to somebody, with expertise to look at it, the architect, or that could be part of a bylaw. So we'd have to designate areas where trees could be protected. And then there would be, I guess, you tell me if I got this, a mitigation. If we had the bylaw and they cut down the tree, they'd have to either replace the tree, which you can't grow a big tree, or pay a fee to the town for doing that. And then just, knowing a little bit about trees, did you know that a single tree releases between 250 and 400 gallons of water? I'm trying to remember whether it's a day or a week. I think it's a day. It's a lot of water per day. And of course, they provide habitats for birds. They remove carbon from the soil. They give out good, clean air. They create a canopy. We talk about heat islands.
They break up heat islands.
Warm, plus the feeling of trees. And we were talking, you mentioned Savannah, and I mentioned having lived in Coral Gables, Florida. It's just beautiful with the canopy. That's a public thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we could do both, but you could try one.
Well, I was talking about this with Mary a little bit, because this had come out of the Natural Systems Workshop. I may have
Yes.
alluded to before.
Yes.
But investing in some sort of street tree or shade tree program, whereas either we identify sites along public roadways within road layouts for street and shade trees, or at least, at the very least, require the DPW as they take trees down for whatever purpose to replace trees within the road layout of specific species or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if it were public, from what I'm understanding, you'd need a tree warden, so that would be an additional expense to the town.
We do have a tree warden.
Yeah, we do have.
It is the
Okay.
conservation agent, yeah.
Oh,
He serves as the tree warden,
We used to have a tree warden,
Perfect.
so.
yeah.
perfect.
Like separate? Yeah,
So,
that's great.
does the board like the idea of a tree bylaw?
Yeah,
I do. I mean, people have been, seeing lots being clear cut. And I think that if in violation,
Yeah. if you
so I
can't
think
cut your whole
that now
lot.
is the time. And, it's important to sequester carbon with the trees. And, as you drive around town, people have been very generous leaving their trees up. It's beautiful. It's beautiful this time of year. When I go from my house all the way down to South Cape, I don't see any, I all see just trees the whole way. Rotary, okay, is a little different, but it's beautiful.
That's
And
about-
therefore, when you do see a clear-cut lot,
It hurts.
it's shocking.
It hurts.
Karen, yeah, the bylaw definitely, I think, would be enhanced of the town, tree bylaw. What I would suggest, under the special permits issued for Southport, which when Phase 1 and 2 were done, it was all clear cut. And then in Conservation said, you want Phase 3, we're going to have some rules, and you could take any tree down that exists in the footprint of a foundation or 10 feet away from the foundation. Other than that, anything over 4 inches in diameter has to be kept or identified as a candidate to be taken with some permission from tree warden, let's say, for
Well,
that.
When that happened, I went out there all the time, and we used to,
Yeah, we
before they
marked
did it.
all the
Every
trees
tree has a
around.
number out there.
But when we had a problem with that 10 feet,
Yep,
a couple of the storms came,
Yeah.
and the trees went right through the house,
Yeah.
and almost killed 2 people. The branches went right
well,
beside the
it could
bed.
be certainly modified to 20 feet or whatever, some other condition.
Yeah, we had to
The
go back.
condition on the special permit allowed that. Now, if you wrote that, tweak it a bit, like Dennis said, I think roll that into a bylaw, we're going to keep more trees.
That'd be great.
I like trees.
Needless to say, the aesthetics, just how, you go into an area, particularly in Florida where I used to live, we had a beautiful area. If you drive, coming from the airport from here, and drive down one particular street on the way to our neighborhood, not a tree on the plain, and I'm saying, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, the house might be a decent house, but without a tree, without shrubs,
this is-
without some kind of landscaping, it's awful.
All right. So Chairman's report, we already covered it, the EDIC meeting on July 26th. Planners report.
I did reach out to see if the folks from Papaneset would be willing to give an abbreviated presentation to you relative to what we discussed together with the building commissioner and conservation agent, to identify and kind of elaborate on those issues and the Papaneset overlay, to which they've agreed. So we could do that at the first meeting in August if they're amenable to that. Just wanted to provide you that update. If they're not available on that first meeting date, I'll suggest another. But if that works for you, I'll follow up with them and confirm. Additionally, the CP Community Preservation Committee applications, I did submit an application with Conservation for the acquisition of 702 Main Street for those 8 acres adjacent to the Pickerel Cove Conservation Area. That is the only application submitted at this time. I just have facilitated a preliminary meeting really with the owners of the 17 acres on Wakeby. We've had verbal conversations, but we need to sit down with conservation agent and our community partners to kind of lay out a similar process as we did with
Okay.
702. They're not in any particular rush.
Great.
So I think there's less of a sense of urgency with regard to the 17 acres because they're really committed to preserving that acreage for the town. So that application will be forthcoming.
Great.
Keep in touch with them.
I shall. The email went out today, so.
Board member committee reports. Cape Cod Commission, the One Cape workshop event is August 1st and August 2nd. So if you want to go, sign up because it does fill up. It's a regional planning event, and it's good. It's really good. Community Preservation Committee, just waiting to hear that the application has been received and to have the chair convene the meeting. Design Review,
Tuesday meeting was canceled.
Plan Review,
We did not meet.
Environmental Oversight Committee,
No meeting.
Historic District Commission.
We had a meeting, which was good.
Wow.
It was for 3 signs and for the woodshed to be put back on the one-room schoolhouse.
Correct.
And one of the signs was where the one-room schoolhouse was originally said, on 130 here, they're gonna put a sign up said, this was the one-room schoolhouse. And the other 2 signs were for the pizza store. And the
Oh,
native,
wildfire?
Native Land Conservancy.
the wildfire,
Oh, and the Native Land Conservancy.
right, native land conservancy.
Great. Okay, any public comment?
I did sign up.
You should have just sat there.
You should just take a mic if
Don't
you
tempt
want to
me.
the chair.
Yeah.
We should mic you up.
So I was hoping I could do this off camera, but I'm hoping Alex will be at our workshop on Saturday.
He'll be there.
I would like to urge the planning board to write him a lovely letter of appreciation and give him some sort of recognition because he's worked his butt off.
He did.
And it's been wonderful to have him. So I just hope you will do something for him, some recognition for him, and a letter that he can put in his file too, because pretty soon he's going to be out there getting a job. And the other thing I wanted to say was the Human Services Committee had a really good meeting with Evan.
Yeah.
We're talking about the 2012 review that they did, and once you got off, I wanted to say, the committee really said that was very useful.
Good.
So, that's it. Thank you.
When do we lose Alex?
Say it again? Oh, Alex will be here through the end of the month, so he's got, a week and a half?
Yeah.
His last thing will be the senior center barbecue, so he'll be sent off, he'll be sent off by the seniors.
Good for him.
That's great. Okay, it's time.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Mike.